welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. As always, you've got me here, Andy. You can follow me at Comiskey North. I'm joined by the ever-neutral Parker at DJ Parkour and the ever-buzzed Matt at Matus Lee. So, Parks, how you doing tonight?
Oh, just lovely. I'm sorry for missing last week, boys. I was out sick with COVID and tested again today, and sure shit, still got COVID. So it's a little bit of a bumpy ride, but hey, we're here, feeling better in a general sense, except for a little bit of a nagging cough. But hey, Chelsea pulled it off today, so I can come sit down and chat with you boys for a little bit. Matthew, how are you?
Well, Collins mentioned it earlier. We're doing quite good. Just got back from visiting some friends of ours and their new son. So we grilled out, had a few or more than a few beers, and having a couple more. So always good. Chelsea win is great. Parks, always good having you back. Good to see that you're recovering well. So it's a good day all around. Collins?
I knew I'd be somewhat accurate on the ever buzzing, right?
It's pretty safe bet.
No, I'm trying to catch up. I was in Kansas City this week, so I picked up some of my favorite little Boulevard Space Camper. So I am about 6 into that. I've got 6 to go.
Well done.
Lovely.
Living the dream. All right. Well, tonight we are on episode 34. Only one player comes to mind there for me, and that's Ryan Bertrand. So, all right, can we be in agreement that this is the Ryan Bertrand episode?
Agreed.
I don't remember a whole lot about Ryan Bertrand other than he was like the first real academy guy to come up in a while. And then for some reason, we decided to start him in a Champions League final for his first European start.
I mean, he didn't do a bad job.
It worked well.
It did, and he's had a nice long career. Granted, not at Chelsea, but he's been pretty good for where's he at? Southampton,
I believe so.
Long with
been there for a number of years.
Him and Oriol Romeu just tearing it up.
Yep.
Save that for episode 6 next year. Oriol Romeu.
Perfect.
All right, let's get to the topics. Tonight, kind of go over two poor matches. Luckily, a win and a loss. We got the news this week. Antonio Rudiger is leaving. We'll talk about that. Reece James playing at center back. The possible whys, maybe future endeavors there. And then finally, there's been a lot of talk this week about Chelsea's poor home record, which has not been an issue at all in the last 20 years. So I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on that. We'll go ahead and start with just the roundup. This week we lost to Arsenal in midweek, 4-2 at home in what Arsenal treated like a Champions League final victory. And then today bailed out in the 94th minute, 92nd minute by Christian Pulisic. So 3 points. We now only need 7 points to secure top 4 for the year with I believe 5 matches to go. So we're getting there, but having a poor stretch, kind of down the stretch here is not encouraging. And Matt, we'll start with you. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this week.
Interesting week. A lot going on and off the pitch. We've talked about this before with Chelsea playing the most amount of games out of anybody this year. It's going to take a toll on you. The injuries too, losing Reece for like a month and a half, 2 months, him coming back and then he's out again for another few weeks. The loss of Kova, I think, definitely hurts. And obviously we all know Chilwell's impact and how much we felt that. They're doing their best. Right. That's all we can ask for. Right. I really think that they're doing their best. They're tired. They're doing a lot of travel. They're playing a lot of matches. it's tough, right? You want a team of this caliber, in an ideal state, you want a team of this caliber. We should not lose, right? Like that's just our mentality going into, I think, almost every single match, right? We should not lose. We have the talent to do so. You have your good days, you have your bad days. And I think the Arsenal game, I think that we were just tired. I really do. I think that it was just tiredness, kind of a lack of cohesion on that front. And then obviously with today's game, a grind, right? We talk about it a million times. Sometimes you have to win ugly, but a win's a win. Doesn't matter how you get it. I mean, you look at matches that we've lost in stoppage time or, things like that. Sometimes it's all it takes, right? It doesn't matter how you get it done, just as long as you get it done. So it's all you can do is really just keep supporting the boys. They're giving it everything they have, what other club is going to deal with the high profile stress of a club takeover, the impacts from the Ukraine and Russia conflict and everything that's going on there, and then to have to also be able to play and be expected to be one of the best teams in the world. It's a lot of pressure, and I think the boys have handled it as well as any team probably could have. So yeah, you take the good with the bad. It's kind of the only thing you can do at this point, but I'm proud of where we are and everything that we've gone through.
And you can see like Tuchel's body language just is tired and fed up and sick of all the crap, sick of the questions. You're dealing with player contracts and you're not really able to offer new contracts with everything that's going on. And you still have to sit there and answer questions and do the stuff. The Arsenal match was disappointing. Arsenal came to play and they treated it like a Champions League final, which we like to rag on them for, but at the same time, they handled their business in a big game. And, we didn't come out with the same kind of a fire. And when you're playing a team that's hungry for top four and you don't give it your all and you don't really have the same kind of focus and mentality, that's what happens. I thought we, fully deserved a result in that Arsenal match, but didn't get it, didn't fall our way. And then Saka took some dark arts out of Rudy's playbook and took Dave down with him and got a late penalty to kind of seal the deal, right? Just the way it goes. It's a grindy year. It's a tiring year. There's no excuses for it, but we ideally would want to have the same kind of a fire as we did back in November for the Champions League and for the Premier League and for all of the competitions that we're still fighting for and everything that's going on. We would love to have that same fire, but the boys are just tired. 63 matches is no joke in a season. So it's the Arsenal match. I felt like we deserved something, didn't get it, and then today I just laughingly watched as I fully expected us to lose and pulled something out from underneath us when I didn't think we deserved it as much. We didn't really create much. Jorginho has a penalty saved, and then out of the blue, Captain America, Christian Pulisic, one shot, one kill, and steals the points, grabs him. We run home, and it's just the way it goes. It's there's not much you can say about it. Matt, I like what you said. You just got to continue to support the boys through the ups and the downs. Overall, it's been a great year. Overall, we've been positive in a lot of moments, and there's a lot to be proud of. Showing the resilience that we have, there's a lot to be proud of. I just think that we can't have these future owners, Collins. They keep coming to our games, and then we keep shitting the bed a little bit. Until that time, we had won 3 or 4 matches after the announcement had been made of the sale, but then once Rickety Cricket and crew came to a match is when everything started to go to hell. So it's just a tough spell, and I think some rest and relaxation is much needed for the boys.
So I agree with the rest and relaxation, and I heard both of you guys touch on that, and absolutely 100%. I think that's what they need. but I've been seeing a lot of, gosh, I don't even know what you call them, personal Twitter advisors to the club at this point, influencers, Chelsea influencers, putting a lot of blame on Tommy T with lineup selection, with subs, with formation. And I think a lot of that stems from the fact that even before the sanctions, we've dropped a lot of points over the last couple of years to teams that we shouldn't, Arsenal included. But we dropped a lot of points back in December. We turned a bunch of our draws into wins, and we're up there with City and Liverpool and all that. So I think there's a lot of frustration with the manager, and I want to know, what do you guys make of that? Do you put any blame on the manager himself?
There has to be blame on the manager. It's a matter of how much. Collins, you and I have coached. We can only do so much, right? You go through the tactics and training and practices. You see what's possible. You see all the potential, and then all of a sudden you kind of see all that go to hell in a handbasket. They're professionals. They know what's expected of them. They know where they should be. They know what they should be doing. Sometimes other teams just have their day, or they have something new that they figured out, and you kind of grow off of that. We've always talked about Tuchel being, or at least I have personally, he's a good half game manager, right? First half, we've seen this, we either come out firing or we come out looking like shit. And then the second half, you see the complete opposite. It's hard to tell, when we've actually put good games together for a full 90. It's frustrating to a point, but at the same time, you also have a manager that makes adjustments, which I would rather have that than have a manager that doesn't change anything at all, even when it's not going right. I just think some of it has to fall to him, but at the same time, like I talked about, we're dealing with a lot of stuff on the pitch and also off the pitch, right? We've talked about Tommy T and what he's going through. That's going to weigh on you. That's going to weigh on anybody, regardless of what your job is, right? You're going to feel some sort of an impact. It is very hard to try and block that out and stay focused on what you want to do. And again, like Parker, you said it great. Like, you look at his body language, you look at it from, the first 2-3 months of the season compared to now. You don't see a lot of that energy. You just see a very kind of frustrated, exhausted manager. And you see that in the players as well. When he's excited, the team are firing on all cylinders, and you can see that in their play. When he's kind of sitting back and just, kind of throwing his hands up, I don't want to say he looks like a man defeated, but he looks like somebody who is just physically, mentally, emotionally just exhausted. And that's a lot of pressure to be under, especially with everything that's been going on with the club and in his personal life. I don't want to give that as an excuse, but at the same time, it's a very realistic thing that I think needs to be taken into consideration. It's hard at times to separate personal from professional. And I think that at some point, I think right now Tuchel's kind of hit that point where he's like, let's just get through the end of the year. Let's stay top 4 in the league. Let's try and win the next cup against Liverpool and kind of go from there. So I think he's kind of, I don't want to say he's packed it in, but he's definitely honed in on more specifics than trying to win everything.
That's the part that he can get judged on. That's the part that we can be critical about him and his performance, that I believe we're valid in judging him for, because energy and caring and giving a shit, if he sits in his chair the whole time with his arms crossed, that doesn't look great. It just optically doesn't. And we all know what he does look like when he's caring and when he's fired up and everything, and he's directing people. And I don't know if he's lost his voice in the locker room or what it is, but my guess is, Matt, what you said, we need to get to the end of the year, hopefully with an FA Cup in our hands. But then he's got to have some time off, regroup, sign some players, get back to the training ground a little bit, and start building from square one again. The thing that I see, Collins, that you kind of referred to, people call him out for, like the team selection stuff. That's where I start to scratch my head a lot, because you have to rotate the team at some point and you have to play players, and there's not really much better else out there. I mean, we can sit here and criticize lineups, but when Trev's out of form and Christensen's out of form and Christensen's probably leaving and Thiago Silva's older, then you start to run out of options at center back pretty quickly. And Star has been not in the best of form as of recent, and so you can't just play Rudiger every single game. I mean, he needs a break at some point too. Midfield is the exact same thing. You've got Ross Barkley, Saul, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's been playing a lot more late recently. Kovacic is hurt. Conte's older, Jorginho's older, and the form of that midfield has been all over the place, especially in the last 6 weeks. It's been on the decline, saying it lightly. Where are you going? Like, you have to play Ruben Loftus-Cheek, because if you don't play Ruben Loftus-Cheek, you're playing Ross Barkley. Like, I don't get it. It's, people sit here and they say he should never play. He should never play. And it's like, well, I don't know if you've got a magic hat where we can just pull out Declan Rice, because that doesn't exist today. You can't just bring him over today. It doesn't work like that. We can talk about how to fix it next year, but you have what you have this year, and you got to play it. And so the players stuff, I've been completely fine with. Striker, we've had our issues, and we've made do with it. Wingbacks have had issues. We've made do with it. We've switched formations a little bit. We've tried a couple of different things. So from a tactics standpoint, I think Tuchel's been on point. I think he's been outmanaged maybe once or twice this year from a tactics standpoint in a 63 match season. That's pretty fucking all right with me.
Yeah, I agree with that there. And, you know, in terms of looking at the lineups, there's only so much you can do when you've got 3, 4, 5 guys out injured, especially when, you know, one of them's Rudiger, the other one's Kova, and then, you know, you got Chilwell still out, and then half the team is out of form. What are you supposed to do? And Parker, you said it perfectly. You know, you have to play Ruben Loftus-Cheek, because what's your other option down the right or in the midfield? It's Ross Barkley, it's Saul, it's somebody from the youth. I don't know. But I think this all exploded because it was Arsenal. And because as of late, you know, we've been dropping a lot of points to Arsenal at home. We do well in the away fixture, but we don't do so hot at home. And honestly, I went into the match with the thought of, this has to be the match that he rotates people, because, and again, you guys nailed it, and it's that these guys need rest. We just played Palace in the FA Cup semifinal. We just played Real Madrid in a win by 2 or go home for 120 minutes. And before that, we had Southampton, which, you know, we didn't have a lot of starters playing in that one. So it was like, your guys just played 210 minutes. Now you need to start dialing it back a little bit for everyone's sake. Maybe it's because we're not there. Maybe it's because we're not in London that we don't feel the London is red now. Like, fuck off. You're in the Europa League. But something had to give, and that was the perfect match to do it. Because like I said in the intro, we have 5, 6 matches to go, and we need 7 points. This game didn't matter to us. It mattered to Arsenal.
Yeah, and I mean, you have an Arsenal team that the second half of the season has kind of come into form. They've been on a pretty good tear, and they're hungry, right? They're driving for that spot. I don't want to jinx anything, but I feel like we've got our place pretty well secured at this point. But I don't know. It like the other thing to remember, this isn't necessarily Tuchel's team. This is an inherited team. He's doing the best he can with the system that he wants, with what he has. And I think that he's done a great job of getting the team behind him in that regard and, being able to make things work. You give him a season and you give him a nice transfer budget to work with to bring in the people that he wants. And I think you're going to see a big difference. But you're dealt the hand that you're given and you make the best out of it. That I think he's doing more than a satisfactory job at this point.
The two things that I will criticize Tuchel on, and they're not necessarily huge things, but I think that's things that, going back on it, maybe he would change it, maybe he wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe he's stubborn like Jurgen Klopp. But number one, we had Harvey Vale come in and put in 2 man of the match performances, and we haven't seen him since. And we haven't had a lot of squad depth. I mean, we have quantity, not quality in our depth. So, why not ride that out a little more? And I know, Matt, you were calling for that for a long time.
Still am.
Yep. And the second thing is the rotation of the front three. I know he was trying to find something that works and trying to find something that works with Big Rom, because I still am not convinced that that's his signing. But we just never built any consistency up top, and it shows. I mean, we're just now seeing Timo Werner get into it because he's getting a nice run of matches. We saw it with Kai Havertz earlier, where he got a nice run of matches, and Mason Mount, because now we're starting to play a consistent front three. And I think had we done that at the beginning of the season, we would have been clicking in December or January.
Go ahead, Parks.
No, I think especially Timo got his fair shake at that run. It just was tough because the front three didn't take their opportunities earlier in the season, which led to inconsistent rotations, which led to it just kind of like fed off of itself, I guess. So it was because of their inability to finish and to be productive together, which is what kind of caused that. But yeah, it's nice to see sort of some consistency up top and then being able to build off of it and having people that know where they're going to be and Timo being able to contribute and Kai being able to contribute, especially with Mason there. It's lovely to see. I don't think that was a squad rotation problem. I think it was just more of a confidence problem, but I digress.
That's fair. All right. Well, let's kind of turn the page on that here. The other big news of the week is Antonio Rudiger. We're not going to be paying that man. Real Madrid sounds like they're going to be paying that man and paying that man's agent quite a hefty fee. So it was confirmed again this week that Rudiger has decided to go elsewhere. Didn't want to wait for Chelsea to sort things out. It sounds like he waited just about as long as he could. But at the end of the day, it's all a business. And if you're coming to the end of your contract with your company and they're, unable to extend you, you got to look out for yourself. So, certainly don't discredit Rudiger there. According to Thomas Tuchel, without the sanctions, we would at least be able to carry on fighting, but our hands are tied. We don't take it personally. It's his decision. He also goes on to say, we gave everything, me and the club, but we could not fight anymore because of the actions, because of the sanctions. It's a sad day that the flag stays down. Hashtag Striker Rudy is it's running out of time. So
on a separate note, I can now officially buy a Rudiger jersey.
Did you buy it this week and not tell us?
No, I did not. I promise you, I did not. But as soon as I found out the news, I kind of flipped the green light for me to go ahead and start looking for a Rudiger jersey that I would like to have and cherish for as long as I can. So yeah, that's a tough one.
Do we want to do a Rudiger eulogy at the end of the season, or do we want to have that now?
Let's do it at the end of the season. I'm not mentally prepared for that right now.
All right, let's throw around some blame then. What? Why? Who are we gonna go with the torches and the pitchforks at?
There's no torches, there's no pitchforks, man. It sounds like this came down to about $20 million, which was what the agent's fee and the signing fee were being asked about. It sounds like the contract, the weekly contract wages were agreed upon, and then I mean it was a matter of $20 million, which doesn't sound like a ton of money, but it is a ton of money when you think about it. It doesn't sound like a ton,
especially to sign your own player.
Exactly, and I think that's a big deal, because that's sort of that usually isn't on the table when you're talking about it, but when you're competing with other teams who have the ability to offer those sign-on bonuses and then those agent fees to match. And so correct me if I'm wrong, his agent is his brother or something along those lines, some bloodline,
something like that.
Yeah. And so you know what, I don't blame the guy. He handled himself brilliantly throughout the entire process, and as a businessman he was able to keep contract stuff separate from his play, and I respect that. He gave it his all. He was Chelsea to the day that he isn't. He's going to be wearing the badge, repping the badge until he's not, and he's given everything he's had to give in the process. And that's the best thing that I could ever ask for. And I can't say the same thing about everybody on this team right now as it's regarded to contracts and how that works. So I applaud him. I don't blame him for a second. He's in his 30s. You literally have one chance to capitalize on a soccer career. And if you're trying to get you paid and your brother paid and your family paid and build generational wealth, and you know what, I've seen him do good with that wealth, with taking it back home and with his charities and stuff, that the work that he does. I don't blame him for a second, man. There's no pitchfork in my camp. I love the man. I'm very happy with his Chelsea career, and I wish him the best at Madrid, and I hope he makes all the money he can.
I'm aiming mine at Russia. Flat out. Without these sanctions, I don't think we have this conversation. I think that it gets handled probably 2 months earlier. It's tough. I still think that, he's still under contract for the remainder of the year. You are still going to see the same Tony Rudiger game in, game out until he is no longer wearing that Chelsea jersey. Nothing will change with that. That's probably the biggest reason why we love him. Obviously we love the antics, the facial expressions, just bombing from 40. We love it. It's, I don't know, that's kind of where a lot of mine goes. Like, the fact that he waited this long, he wanted to stay. He did. Like that tells you everything you need to. He's holding out until the absolute end to try and make things work and to try and stay with the club. It's just an unfortunate circumstance, right? We're put in this position and our hands are tied as a club, and you can only do as much as you can. I mean, again, when you're talking about, when Roman was owning the club, 20 mil, fine. Like, to him, that would be nothing. To keep Rudiger there, that would be nothing. But 20 mil currently for us is astronomical. And like we just can't make that happen right now. A very selfish and dark part of me hopes that Rudy gets injured in the last match and nobody picks him up on a free over summer, and then we can just re-sign him once we do have ownership figured out. But that's just me being greedy. Obviously, I don't want anything to happen to him, but from my own team support, my own fandom, I would like a situation where he could just stay and nobody else wants him. But yeah, I understand the move. But again, professional through and through, and he's going to keep doing his Rudy things, and we're just going to enjoy him for as long as we got.
There's to kind of piggyback off of your getting injured in the last match thing. I don't think Rudiger is going to do well wherever he goes. It sounds like it's Madrid, but I don't think he's going to do well. Chelsea is the one kind of rare exception club where you can do all the shit that you do. We talk about him being the walking meme or the walking GIF. You can't do that at Madrid. Madrid is like the Yankees. You can't have a beard. I mean, you can at Madrid, but New York Yankees, you're not allowed to have a beard. You got to act in a certain way. That's Real Madrid. Chelsea being the most hated club, honestly, in the world, you can do that shit and you can get away with it. We saw it with David Luiz. He went to PSG, couldn't do that there, was unhappy there, was a pariah there. Came back to Chelsea, was his same old self. Went to Arsenal, tried to pull that stuff. And they called him one of the worst center backs that they've had. I think you're going to see something similar out of Rudiger. I think you're going to see what happened to Eden Hazard happen to Antonio Rudiger, unfortunately. But with that being said, I don't know. I'll save it for some other time. But this is a widespread. I'm casting the net wide on whose fault this one is. Going all the way to the heads of government with this. So, yeah, not happy. But it is what it is. We still got 6 matches left with Rudiger, so we'll enjoy it while we can.
Amen.
So one man who may be taking that spot, or seemingly has in the last couple matches, has been Reece James, taking on a center back role. Not necessarily directly in Rudiger's spot. He's been taking a lot of Andreas Christensen.
We knew you'd figure it out.
Boulevard Space Camper, delicious.
Hey,
so I heard I think it was Arlo White was questioning why Reece James is playing at right center back. And that was the first time all year that I've thought Arlo White, he's not with it. He's asking questions that he shouldn't, because Thomas Tuchel was very clear last week as to why Reece James is playing center back. That's because he's coming back from a leg injury, doesn't have his legs behind him, and it's a lot less running to play at center back. Now, with that being said, he's looked all right back there. He contained Vinicius Jr., contained Wilfred Zaha, and there's one more I'm missing. But anyways, it looked okay with Reece James at center back, and I'm curious to know what you guys thought of it. Whether you think it's something that could work long term, or something that at least is an option for us.
Parks?
Oh, yeah, sure. An option for us, sure. In a pinch, yeah. I mean, can he play there? Yeah, I think he can. Could he also probably step in as striker for us for a day? Yeah, probably. I mean, I almost would rather see that than center back. If it's an injury recovery protocol, like, fine. Like, I'm happy to see him out there. I think he brings poise and class to the team whenever he's out there, and this like quiet comfort. And so I like seeing him out there. And if it has to be in a lesser running role, like I'm totally fine with that. But when we're talking about like best 11s or ideal squad positions, absolutely not. Like I don't want him to be stuck in center back. I think he needs to be on the right center back or the right wing back, or in a more advanced position where he can send crosses in and still defend, but be a distributor and do other things for us. He's got too much quality to just be sitting there as a center back. So yeah, that's I don't prefer him there.
He's not a center back. He's a right wing back. That's it. he can play it, sure. He can also play midfield. He did earlier in the season when he came on as a sub. Like he played a midfield position. Like he can do it. I don't want him to do it. He can, but just because he can doesn't mean that he should. He's a right back, a right wing back. We need him bombing up and down the pitch. We need him as an enforcer on that right flank. For when teams are attacking, he gives a very strong presence. I think a lot of people are still kind of sleeping on that. The actual presence that he really does have, especially if you compare him to Dave. Obviously, Dave is 10 years the elder to Reece, but I mean, even Dave, like, you still really don't want to go at him too much. He's still a great defender. I think you could see a combination where Dave is playing a right center back and Reece is playing a right wing back. And, again, maybe depending on how the game's going, you could see maybe a switch. Obviously, with Dave being older, you can have him play more center back, but if you need a switch, you need somebody a little bit more physical there, you could see just an easy, swip swap of those two. But yeah, he's not a center back. Keep him at the right wing back. That's his best position. That's it.
See, I like it. I like him at center back. 2 reasons. One, if it's going to save
They're
his
both
leg.
wrong. Both your reasons are wrong. I'm just telling you.
No, let him talk. Let him talk.
They're both wrong.
That's it.
I
quit the pod. Fuck you guys.
What do you got, Mr. Collins?
It's going to save his legs long term, right? Just like with a running back in the NFL. The way we play our wing backs puts a lot of mileage on those legs. And if you can save a couple kilometers every match. Now, I'm not saying put him at center back in every match. I'm saying use it in a rotation. I think that's going to help the club long term. That's going to add years to his career. Number 2, I like Ruben Loftus-Cheek down that right side. I talked about it. What was that last week with you, Matt? Where he's able to start outside and cut inside, almost like Pulisic does, and it opens up more space for him for a guy who can run at you. And not only that, but it wasn't like Reece James was staying all the way back as center back. He was coming up and joining when he could. So I think that opens up a lot. So if you're playing somebody like Real Madrid or Crystal Palace, where they've got a speedy forward, I want Reece James back there because we do not have center backs that have pace, especially after we have Rudiger leaving and Christensen's leaving, although Christensen's the man who gets burned all the time. So you can ignore that point. I think it opens up a lot for us defensively and on the counter. Again, I'm not saying every single match, but it's a nice tactical option that Tuchel can use against some of these Premier League teams that try to play over the top with a speedy forward.
The only thing I see that's super positive about what you just said is now that Rudiger is going to be gone, we need to fill the void of blasting from 40. And if that's Reece James, I kind of love that. I don't hate that. We need it. I mean, Thiago Silva tried his hand at it today.
And we know Malang Sarr blasted to the moon, so
correct.
So does Rudy.
but Rudiger, we at least believe, like, ooh, it's got a chance as soon as he hits it. Malang Sarr
did do one. He did one. Rudy finally did it.
Yeah, he did.
And it was an absolute thumper. But
and it caused the downfall of our season.
Yeah. I understand saving his legs, but guess what? Dave is going to be 33 next year, and he was able to fill in. He was able to fill in while Reece was out and did a damn good job at the time, and he was 32. So if we're talking about a 22-year-old not having enough legs,
who just had knee surgery this year.
Just saying. I don't see it being a big issue. I really don't. Like, that's what training's for. That's why you get in shape to do these things. That's why you have recovery paths and everything like that. Like, he's going to be fine. That is his position. As a right center back, I don't think so, because then who else is going to fit in? So if we're talking, if let's say, for example, if we run Reece as the right center back and Dave as the right wing back, right? Because we don't really have anybody else. Or let's say you want to throw in RLC. There's going to have to be rotation there, obviously. What happens if we run into a situation like this year where one of them goes down? Are you going to, what's your rotation look like then? Are you going to run Dave as your right center back, RLC as your wing back for 5 straight matches, and then all of a sudden push comes to shove, then what do you do?
No, but I said that that's not what I want. I said this isn't an every game thing.
It should be a
I said it's a tactical option.
Right. It's an option. It's not his best position. So
I know I didn't say we're agreeing. You and me don't have to fight every pod.
But I think we do.
We're not talking Jorginho today, so we don't have to.
Well,
it's an interesting look if we need to get into it. I mean, but Collins, I don't think you do it with the mentality of to rest his legs. I think if you get into rotation where you need to manage his legs, then maybe you think about it. But he's young; he's going to be fine. And you don't like tell him, hey, every 4th match you're going to be playing center back to save your legs. Like that's not it. So, but I like it as a once in a blue moon option.
I'll take that. I'll take that over Matt yelling at me.
Oh, there's plenty more.
Only for the blast. Only for blasting capabilities, because Lord knows that Rudy got clearance to do so. Reece James is a far better striker than Rudy. Don't at me at that. And yeah, he scores a lot more goals. And from distance like that, I think he could absolutely unload.
All right, let's move on here to the last topic of the day. And that is our home record. Stamford Bridge has always been a fortress, always, since my wee years of watching Chelsea football. We had the long unbeaten run under Mourinho. We had another one come close, I think, under Mourinho's second reign. Stamford Bridge has always been a hard place to play, but not this year. Not this year. Chelsea has, I think we're like 7-5-3 at home this year. Might be 8 after today's match, 8-5-3. But it's not acceptable. As a Chelsea fan, as I'm sure the manager, as I'm sure anyone else, I'm not sure if it's because, Parker, as you mentioned earlier, the new potential owners are coming in and everyone feels under pressure, or if, like Tuchel says, the ground just isn't, the grass isn't cut right, the ball is bouncing funny. I don't know what to make of it. I've got my theories as of late, but they don't carry over for the whole season. But I'm curious to know what you guys think of our home form this year.
Curious to know your theories.
I think it's sanctions related. You could tell the last couple matches that it's been quiet, weirdly quiet at Stamford Bridge. You could hear the opposing fans a lot. Arsenal, West Ham, and I think honestly that, and you see in the first few rows are all empty because we can't sell tickets. It's all season ticket holders, and if season ticket holders don't want to go, then you're not reselling those tickets. So I think it's eerily quiet. I think we've lost all home pitch advantage. What do you call it in England? I don't know. But again, that theory doesn't carry back into December. These weren't issues in December. So I don't know. I think as of late, it's become a terrible place to play for us because of that. But it doesn't explain why it's been bad under Tuchel in general for the last 18 months.
Collins, I'm curious. I know, I'm sure you can pull this stat up. I'm curious to know what our away record is.
Oh, it's really good. I was just looking at it the other day. Hold on.
Yeah. So I would question your question with like what's better, having a better away record or having a worse home record? Because usually, again, it's a lot tougher to play on the road, right? And the fact that we are able to do so at what I'm assuming is a fairly good rate, probably a better percentage than our home fixtures. I'm almost happier with that than I am with I'm happier with the away record than the home record. And
just
what
to,
comes,
sorry, just to
Yeah, go ahead.
interject, we are 8-5-3 at home, with a goal differential of 14. Away, we are 11-3-2 with a goal differential of 26.
Yeah, so it's like we're doing better in the tougher aspect, right? It always harder to play away. We're doing better in that aspect. I completely agree. I think the sanctions have played a big impact. I think the announcement of Roman selling the club, whatever happened with ticket sales for a few weeks, and then we were able to sell tickets again, and we've seen this in the past where I hate using it, but we'll use Newcastle as an example. Like, fans would show up just to shit on Mike Ashley, and that was the only reason why they would show up. It's hard to back a club when you don't know what the ownership is, and when you're very unsure of what's going on with ownership, especially with social media nowadays. You read one thing, 2 minutes, you read another thing. Like, you really don't know what's going on, right? The whole thing with Ricketts and almost getting kind of preferential treatment, like with trying to explain their bid and everything like that, and having these meetings and everything. It didn't put a lot of faith in Chelsea fans, with the Chelsea board. So I think that rubbed people the wrong way, and it kind of makes you question what's really going on with the club. And that, from just a supporter standpoint, it's hard to back that, right? Like, you love the club, you love the team, but when ownership doesn't have a good handle, and when you're hearing different things from different people about what's actually going on, it's tough to make heads or tails and figure out, is the club doing the right thing? And if you're split, if you don't think they are, it's going to be hard to kind of show up and show your support. And then at the same time, if you're, still a diehard and you love the team, like, yeah, you're going to support. So I think that whole thing with the uncertainty of what's going on, I think that's kind of really split the Chelsea fan base. And I think that's probably why you're seeing, obviously a decline in the home support that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, my take. I try not to look too much on the home and away record stuff. I think it gets overblown a little bit. The whole like tough place to play kind of it results in just it's an atmosphere thing. I think more than anything, and it's just a place you don't want to play because you're going to hear from it from the fans. But from like a team style way of looking at this argument, I think those numbers even out over time. I think generally you are who you are, and you're going to show who you are away or home. Like, you're going to play the same tough soccer either way, and it's not going to it shouldn't really vary whether you're home or away. To have the fans behind you is another thing, and to have your support sing the songs and cheer you on and give you that like extra man or that extra edge, if you want to call it that home field advantage. That's totally fair. I just think like they're all professionals, and that edge is waning in general in sports. to an extent. I think it's just flat out who comes to play that day and who's the more professional of the two squads and who handles their business generally results in the win more so than gets carried by their fans. But yeah, all the points you guys made about our support and the factors that have gone into the support are all true. So I think that plays into it a little bit. But it'll be an interesting time to see in the transition if Chelsea can build a little bit of identity from a fan's perspective to get some of that culture back, some of that cheering back and consistency back to give the boys somewhat of a home field advantage, because it exists other places. And if we're not having it, yeah, we can have a great away record, but ideally our home record is better than the away record, which is also stellar. And then we're, competing for the league, because if we have an equal home record as we do our away record right now, I think we're probably competing for the league.
And one additional thing, like eventually we've seen home streaks in all different sports here in the US, right? We've seen it with Duke and college basketball. And we've even seen it in the Premier League, right? Under Sir Alex Ferguson with United. You could not get a point there. It was a foregone conclusion anytime you went to Old Trafford when Sir Alex Ferguson was the manager, you were not going to get a point. We see that now at Liverpool, right? Where they're just tearing things up at home. We saw it with the Mexican national team, right? At El Azteca. It was always tough going there. You were almost going there expecting to get beat. Things change, right? Records are set at a certain point for a reason, right? Eventually they get broken. I think that we're just kind of at a point right now where we have a lot of things, we got a lot of shit going on. That's the best way to put it, right? We got a lot of shit going on. And I don't read too much into it, but at the same time, I do think that with what we have available to us, it should be more impactful when we're home for other teams versus us going to, an away pitch and being able to perform. I really think that, we've all played collegiate sports, high school sports, all that stuff, right? You were always excited about home games, right? All your friends, your family, like everybody's going to show up, all that good stuff. That's when you want to play your best, right? And unfortunately, right now, we're not seeing it, but that doesn't mean that, we're not getting the job done elsewhere, right? It could just be something where, maybe something's going on and you just have bad games during that time when you're at home. It's very possible, and we've seen it happen, but I don't know. I don't think it's alarming. I do like the fact that we're handling things on the road better than we're handling things at home in the current state. Because I think when we play games on the road, we kind of limit those distractions. And I think that's what helps loosen up the boys, loosens up the club to just be able to go out there, focus on football and just do what they do.
Here's the thing that concerns me about it. When you play at home, or I'll start with when you play on the road and you're not a top 4, top 6 team, what do? You kind of sit back, play for the point, right? When you're a top 6 team, you go on the road, you go for the win. You go for scoring goals. And a lot of times those lower teams at home will also go for goals. That's their idea of when they're going to pick up points. So what we are not doing is beating teams with the low block. And it's been our problem all year, home and away. It's just we see it more at home. And, whether it's the personnel that are here, whether it's the style that we are playing, which we have talked about a lot, we play too slow. I think that's what we're seeing at home. is a lot of teams parking the bus playing that low block. And then we've got, Matt, I'm going to serve one up on a platter for you. Got Jorginho side passing and back passing all over the place, slowing the game down because I don't think we're prepared for that low block. Maybe that's not something you see in Germany. Maybe that's, what Tuchel's coming in experience wise with. But something's got to give because you have to win at home. You have to. Those should be the points that you pick up regardless of who you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, again, home games, you do have that extra advantage of obviously being at home. You've got more supporters in the stands, louder noise. You get that. You get a couple of those cheers that just spur the team on. You get those hard plays where everybody just starts going nuts. You see a Rudy run and the crowd erupts. Like it's stuff that you love to see. I just think that right now with everything we have going on, we limit distractions when we're on the road. And I think that helps us play a little bit more freely. I think playing at home brings an added stress because you bring all those distractions back into play. And I don't think that it's good for the boys. And I honestly think that I would prefer to play more of my games away at this point, just to clear everything. Because anytime you go to Stamford Bridge, media is going to be asking all the questions. What's going on with ownership? What's going on with whatever? Where are the injuries at? Tuchel getting blasted, left, right, and center about everything under the sun. Like, you go on the road, a lot of those questions don't get asked. Like, you're free to focus on what you need to do. So I think it's almost a getaway from everything that's going on off the pitch when you play on the road.
Luckily, we only have one home match left this year. So we've got Wolves at home. Everything else is away, including the FA Cup final. So, hopefully our streak continues a little bit, and we can continue to play away from home. Matt, I think you're right, though. I think it's a little bit of additional pressure right now, and it and then like our pace of play just isn't conducive for home right now. We just play too slow, play too much of the build up, and runs get made, but the direct ball just doesn't get found. We don't have that like Cesc Fabregas who can find that darting run from way back right now. So it just, a lot of those runs get missed, and we don't play direct enough or fast enough to really punish those teams that sit.
Well, we have the third best men's player in FIFA as our midfielder in Jorginho.
He ain't no Cesc Fabregas.
Episode 4 next year, Cesc Fabregas. All right. Well, boys, we are pushing up against the hour mark here. Matt, you got any closing thoughts?
Um,
I think Jorginho summed up his season with his penalty today.
God damn it, Colin.
And we're just gonna kind of leave it at that.
All right, Parker, what about you?
I'm gonna take this time to thank our one Twitch chatter. Thank you for hanging out with us for a bit. First time chatter, Donnie Lucifer. Appreciate you stopping in for a bit, bud, and hanging out with us.
All right. Well, before we toast, let's pay some bills here. If you enjoyed what you watched today on Twitch, please give us a follow there. We're going to be live streaming pretty much every Sunday night, unless Parker has COVID, at 8:30 Central Time US. If you're busy on Sundays, or if you listen to, you like listening to the podcast version, you can catch us there anywhere you get your podcasts. All we do ask is that if you do listen to us on Spotify or Apple, that you please subscribe, rate, and I'm going to emphasize the and review the podcast. It takes no more than 30 seconds to do, but it does us a ton of good. You can also follow us on social media. Podcast itself can be followed on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just got to search @FlagDownPod. You can follow me, Andy, at Comiskey North. Parker is at DJ Parkour, and Matt is at Matus Lee. If you have any questions or comments you want us to address on air, we're always happy to read those out. So please shoot us a DM on social media or come join us live like tonight and jump in the chat. So that's all I've got, boys. So on that note, cheers to Matt's third best player on the face of the earth, and to those who chime in on Twitch. So cheers, boys.
Cheers. Later, Raz. I'm all potted out.